Something is happening that you cannot yet see, but deep in your spirit you can feel it stirring. There is a holy restlessness in your heart, a quiet question whispering in your soul, telling you that life as you have known it is not where the story ends. You may not have the words for it, but you sense it. God is not finished with you. He is working behind the scenes, shaping moments, aligning events, and preparing you for a shift so great that when it comes, you will look back and realize every step, every tear, and every delay had a purpose. There are seasons when God speaks loudly, and there are seasons when he seems silent. But make no mistake, silence is not absence. The farmer does not shout at the seed buried in the ground, yet beneath the soil, life is breaking forth. You may feel buried today, pressed down by disappointment, hidden by obscurity, weighed down by unanswered prayers, but what you call a burial, God calls a planting. He is preparing you, not punishing you. He is positioning you, not forgetting you. Many of the greatest moves of God begin in the darkest hours of a person's life. When the night is long and the burden feels heavy, that is often when heaven is closest. Think of the countless souls who cried out in desperation, only to discover later that their lowest moment became the doorway to their highest calling. God has a way of turning breakdowns into breakthroughs, tears into testimonies, and trials into triumphs. You may be wondering why the road has been so hard, why doors have closed just when you thought they would open, why people you trusted walked away when you needed them most. But hear this truth: God sometimes removes what you lean on, so you will learn to lean fully on him. The shift he is preparing will require a deeper faith, a stronger trust, and a heart fully surrendered. What feels like loss today may be the very thing making room for what is coming tomorrow. There is a refining process before every great shift. Gold is not purified in comfort, but in fire. Strength is not developed in ease, but in resistance. Faith is not built when everything makes sense, but when you choose to believe even when you cannot understand. God is shaping your character, because where he is taking you, talent alone will not sustain you. Only a heart anchored in him will stand when the winds begin to blow. Some of you have been praying for change, but you did not expect the preparation to look like this. You asked for growth, but you did not realize it would require letting go. You asked for elevation, but you did not expect humility to be the pathway. Yet God knows exactly what he is doing. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows the weight of the blessing you are about to carry, and he loves you too much to release it before you are ready. Do not underestimate the small moments. Do not despise the waiting. Do not lose heart in the hidden places. God often does his greatest work when no one is watching. In the quiet hours, when prayers are whispered through tears, when faith is exercised without applause, heaven takes notice. Angels are dispatched. Doors are prepared. Paths are cleared. The shift is closer than you think. There comes a moment when God says, now. Suddenly, what once felt impossible begins to unfold. Opportunities appear where there were none. Healing flows where pain once lived. Peace replaces anxiety. Purpose rises from confusion. When God shifts your life, he does it in a way that leaves no doubt it was his hand. What people called coincidence, you will call divine intervention. But hear this clearly: the greatest shift is not always external. Sometimes God changes your circumstances, and sometimes he changes you. He replaces fear with courage, bitterness with forgiveness, despair with hope. He lifts your eyes so you no longer see yourself as broken, but as chosen. The world may have labeled you by your past, but God calls you by your promise. This shift will not just bless you, it will bless others through you. Your testimony will become someone else's lifeline. Your survival will become proof that God still restores, still redeems, still saves. The very wounds you tried to hide will become the evidence of God's healing power. Nothing is wasted in his hands. Not one prayer, not one tear, not one moment of faith. So stand firm. Hold on. Keep believing even when you are tired. Keep trusting even when answers seem delayed. Lift your head because your story is not ending. It is turning. God is preparing you for the greatest shift you've ever known. And when it comes, you will see that He was with you every step of the way. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to surrender to fear. This is the moment to rise in faith and say, Lord, I trust you with what I cannot see. The shift is coming. The dawn is breaking. And what God is about to do in your life will be greater than anything you could have imagined. There are moments in life when heaven feels quiet, when prayers seem to rise no higher than the ceiling, and the heart begins to wonder if God has turned away. In those moments, doubt creeps in softly, asking dangerous questions, telling you that nothing is happening, that nothing will change, that perhaps you have been forgotten. But the silence of God has never meant the absence of God. Long before a seed breaks through the soil, unseen roots are spreading in the dark, drawing strength from places the eye cannot reach. In the same way, God often does His deepest work where human vision cannot follow. Silence is uncomfortable because it demands trust. When God does not speak, He invites you to believe without evidence, to walk without seeing the full road ahead. Many people lose faith not because God has failed them, but because they expected Him to move on their timetable. Yet God's delays are never denials. He sees dangers you cannot see, prepares doors you have not yet reached, and aligns people and moments that must come together at the right time. What feels like waiting is often divine coordination taking place beyond your awareness. Throughout history, those who experienced the greatest breakthroughs first endured seasons of quiet obedience. They continued praying when answers were slow. They continued believing when circumstances spoke the opposite. God was not ignoring them. He was shaping them. Silence strips away dependence on feelings and teaches reliance on truth. Faith that survives silence becomes unshakable because it no longer depends on signs, emotions, or immediate results. In the quiet seasons, God refines motives. When no applause follows obedience, when no reward is visible, the heart is exposed. Are you serving because of blessings or because you trust the one who blesses? Silence reveals whether faith is rooted in convenience or conviction. God uses this time to deepen your relationship with Him, drawing you closer not through miracles, but through intimacy. When you learn to trust Him in silence, you are prepared to stand firm when responsibility increases. There are battles being fought on your behalf that you cannot hear. There are answers being formed that you cannot yet receive. God speaks not only through words, but through timing. A premature answer could harm what a delayed one will heal. Silence protects you from rushing into what you are not yet ready to carry. It guards you from shortcuts that look attractive, but lead to loss. God's quietness is often His mercy at work. When God is silent, He is teaching you to listen differently. Not every instruction comes as a voice. Some come as growth, endurance, and wisdom gained through endurance. Strength is being built in you that could not be formed in comfort. Courage is developing that will be needed for what lies ahead. The very patience you are learning now will sustain you when the shift arrives. Do not confuse silence with abandonment. The same God who spoke light into darkness is still present in your waiting. He is closer than you feel, more active than you know, more intentional than you can imagine. Every silent season carries purpose. Every delay carries meaning. Every quiet moment carries preparation. When God finally speaks, you will realize He was never absent, only working in ways too deep for words. There are seasons in life when it feels as though everything familiar has been stripped away, when comfort disappears and certainty is replaced by confusion. You may feel pressed down by circumstances, hidden from view, forgotten by the world around you. In these moments, It is easy to believe that you are being buried, that your dreams have been placed in the ground and left to die. But God does not bury what He intends to destroy. He plants what He intends to grow. What feels like an ending is often the beginning of a transformation taking place beneath the surface. When a seed is placed in the soil, it enters a dark and silent place. There is pressure from every side, and nothing about the environment suggests life or progress. Yet it is in that darkness that the seed breaks open. It must release what it once was in order to become what it was created to be. In the same way, God allows seasons where old identities, past attachments, and familiar patterns are broken apart. The discomfort you feel is not punishment, it is preparation. Growth always requires surrender. Many people try to escape these seasons too quickly. They pray for relief instead of understanding, for rescue instead of transformation. But if God were to remove you from the soil too soon, the process would remain unfinished. The strength you need for what is ahead can only be formed under pressure. Roots must grow deep before anything rises above the ground. What others cannot see is that you are developing stability, resilience, and faith that will hold you steady when the storms come. Being planted also means being hidden from applause. No one praises a seed in the ground. There is no recognition, no validation, no visible progress. This is where faith is tested most deeply. Will you continue to trust when no one is watching, when nothing seems to change, when the only evidence of God's work is the quiet assurance in your heart? God uses hidden seasons to purify intentions, teaching you to rely on Him rather than external affirmation. There is also a breaking that takes place in the soil. The seed must crack open for life to emerge. What feels like breaking in your life may actually be the release of something new. God sometimes allows dreams to shatter so they can be rebuilt on a stronger foundation. He allows comfort to be disturbed so calling can be clarified. What you thought was loss may be the removal of limits that once confined you. The soil does not define the seed's future, it only shapes its process. No matter how deep you feel planted, God knows exactly how to bring you forth at the right time. He measures the season perfectly. Not a moment too early, not a moment too late. The depth of the planting often determines the height of the growth. Those who are planted deepest often rise strongest. Even while buried, the seed is responding to God's design. It is growing in obedience to a purpose it cannot yet see. In the same way, every day you remain faithful in uncertainty, something is forming within you. Strength is increasing. Vision is sharpening. Endurance is being established. When the moment comes, when the soil breaks open and light touches what was once hidden, it will be clear that you were never buried, only planted. There are moments when the most painful experiences in life are not the battles you fight, but the doors that never open and the people who walk away without explanation. You prayed, you believed, you stepped forward in faith, only to watch opportunities dissolve and relationships fade. It feels unfair, confusing, and deeply personal. Yet often, these moments are not signs of failure, but evidence of God's careful hand at work. Closed doors and delays are not meant to stop you. They are meant to shape you for something greater than you can currently imagine. A door that closes can feel like rejection, but sometimes it is protection. God sees paths you cannot see and outcomes you cannot predict. What looks like a missed opportunity may have led to unnecessary pain, distraction, or compromise. God does not always explain what He rescues you from. He simply closes the door and asks you to trust Him. Faith grows strongest when you believe God's wisdom exceeds your understanding, even when your heart struggles to accept it. Delays test the depth of belief. Anyone can trust God when answers come quickly, but enduring faith is formed when waiting stretches longer than expected. Waiting exposes impatience, fear, and insecurity, but it also builds perseverance and humility. God often uses delay to prepare your inner life for what your outer life is about to receive. If the blessing arrived too soon, it might overwhelm your character, distort your priorities, or damage your dependence on Him. Every delay carries a lesson. It teaches you how to pray differently, how to listen more carefully, how to surrender control. It forces you to confront areas where trust is shallow and belief is conditional. God uses these moments to deepen your roots so that when success comes, it does not uproot you. When influence increases, humility remains. When doors finally open, gratitude replaces pride. Closed doors also redirect your focus. They strip away assumptions and force revaluation. Sometimes you realize you were pursuing something good when God had something better. Other times, you discover that your identity was too tightly connected to an outcome instead of a calling. God reshapes priorities through disappointment, reminding you that purpose is not found in achievement alone, but in obedience. Delays refine faith by teaching you to walk without constant reassurance. They stretch your spiritual muscles, training you to trust God's promises rather than visible results. In these seasons, faith becomes less emotional and more resolute. You learn to praise without immediate reward, to serve without recognition, to remain faithful without certainty. This kind of faith cannot be shaken by circumstances because it is anchored in God's character. When the right door finally opens, it opens with clarity and peace. There is no confusion, no striving, no need to force what God has already prepared. You step forward stronger, wiser, and more discerning than before. You recognize that the waiting was not wasted time but necessary formation. The delays shaped your patience, the closed doors strengthened your discernment, and the uncertainty deepened your trust. God does not tease His children with false hope. Every closed door carries purpose. Every delay carries intention. Even when you do not understand the timing, heaven is never late. What feels like a setback is often a setup, positioning you for a future that requires greater faith, deeper trust, and a heart fully anchored in Him. There comes a moment when everything you have endured begins to make sense. When the long nights, the unanswered prayers, and the silent seasons come together in a single realization that God has been leading you all along. The journey may have felt confusing, even painful, but it was never random. Every step, every delay, every closed door carried purpose. God has been shaping you with eternal intention, preparing you for a shift that required more strength, more faith, and more trust than you once had. You were never abandoned in the waiting. God was present in the struggle, near in the uncertainty, and faithful in the quiet. When you felt weak, He was building endurance. When you felt overlooked, He was deepening your character. When you felt uncertain, He was teaching you to rely on Him rather than your own understanding. The process was not meant to break you, but to build something within you that could withstand what is ahead. The greatest shifts in life do not always arrive with noise or sudden display. Sometimes they begin with a change of heart, a renewed perspective, a deeper peace that replaces fear. God often transforms you inwardly before changing your outward circumstances. When your faith matures, when your trust becomes steady, when your surrender is complete, the ground is prepared for what comes next. The shift begins when you stop asking why and start trusting who. What lies ahead will require courage, but you are not facing it alone. The same God who carried you through the valley will walk with you on the mountaintop. The same grace that sustained you in weakness will sustain you in abundance. Nothing you experienced was wasted. Your story is being woven into something greater than you can see. Something that will not only bless you, but reach others through you. Now is the time to lift your eyes and look forward with hope. The past no longer defines you. The delays no longer discourage you. The closed doors no longer confuse you. You are standing on the edge of a new season, one shaped by obedience, refined by faith and guided by God's perfect timing. What once felt heavy has prepared you to carry more, and what once felt uncertain has taught you to trust more deeply. Stand firm in what you believe. Hold fast to the promises placed in your heart. Continue walking in faith even when the full picture is not yet clear. God is faithful to complete what He has begun. The shift is coming, not because of your strength, but because of His faithfulness. You are prepared, you are positioned, and you are being led into something greater than you have ever known.